Good evening, participants. We welcome you to our ongoing program. We will be starting the program in few minutes time. We are admitting the participants now. Good evening, participants. CPR Environmental Education Centre, Chennai, welcomes you to our ongoing program, Our Environment, Our Lifeline. Today, the topic is agriculture and the environment. History of agriculture. The crucial transition of man from hunter-gatherer to pastoralist and cultivator was one of the most significant steps in the history of mankind. Domestication of plants, better known as agriculture, gave birth to various settled cultures. Concurrently, the limitation and inadequacies of ancient farming technologies, particularly irrigation, to feed the growing population often played an important role in the decline of several leading civilizations such as those of the Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, and Easter Island. One of the major factors of the decline and fall of the Harappan culture was the widespread deforestation of the surrounding region to meet the demand for agriculture and firewood for baking millions of bricks used in building the city of Mohenjo-daro. The rise and fall of these ancient civilizations throw more light on the contemporary issue of agricultural development and environmental protection. The history of agriculture is a history of environmental modification. Forests have been cleared, wetlands and marginal lands have been enclosed and brought under cultivation. The impact of agriculture on the environment has created a conflict in human priorities. On the one hand, there is an increasing population calling for more and cheaper food, and on the other, there is the problem of decreasing natural resources. There is a constant pressure to modernize and intensify agricultural systems to meet the food demands of a spiraling population. Most people still fail to comprehend the magnitude of the population explosion. Today, according to the most recent estimate by the UN, there are 7.8 billion people and we may reach 9.9 billion by 2050. At this rate, the food demand is expected to increase anywhere between 59% to 98% by 2050. The relationship between population and food is so complex that there is no answer to the question. Is there enough food for all on this planet? The most striking paradox is that Asia has recorded the highest gain in food production and harbors half the world's hungry people. Some points to note are opportunities for the future expansion of cropping lands are rapidly declining. There is scope for further yield increase, but there is ultimately a ceiling above which it will not even be theoretically possible to produce. The water table goes down and soil fertility decreases as more lands come under intensive cultivation. Human and animal health is jeopardized by toxins from pesticides and fertilizers that enter the food chain. Green Revolution. The Green Revolution has met with temporary success in man's war against hunger and deprivation. But the frightening power of human reproduction must also be understood. Otherwise, the problems of modern agriculture may become even worse. Water-related concerns. India has practiced watershed technologies for hundreds of years, but in the recent past, India has invested heavily in large-scale dams for irrigation. The success story of the Green Revolution was made possible by the implementation of watershed management. However, this has led to an unsustainable use of water. Nationwide withdrawals of groundwater are estimated to be double the rate of recharge of the water table. Land use. Clearing forests result in major reduction in rainfall interceptions and evapotranspiration. Increase in soil moisture leads to soil erosion and over-irrigation, and water logging leads to salinization. Agriculture extension programs encroach on marginal lands that are ecologically fragile regions. Example, steep slopes, grasslands, arid lands, and mangroves. Fertilizers. Fertilizers are added to supplement nutrients in the soil. Chemical fertilizers increase the yield, but with heavy damage to the environment, causing eutrophication. Exhaust from fertilizer producing units is heavily loaded with oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, which results in acid rain. Excessive use of chemical fertilizer destroys the soil flora and fauna. In traditional farming practices, the soil is enriched periodically by adding organic manure such as cow dung, bone meal, and crop residues. In this system, the soil supports a healthy population of earthworms, bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes, protozoa, millipedes, insects, spiders, and a host of other creatures that are essential for sustaining the health of the soil. Pesticides. Pesticides are chemicals that control pest populations mainly by killing the pest organisms. However, the majority of pesticides is not specifically targeting the pest only, and during their application, they also affect non-target plants and animals. Repeated application leads to loss of biodiversity. Many pesticides are not easily degradable. They persist in soil, leach to groundwater, and surface water and contaminate wider environment. Depending on their chemical properties, they can enter the organism, bioaccumulate in food chains, and consequently influence the human health. In addition to killing the pest, pesticides kill other useful organisms like earthworms, spiders, mites, birds, etc. Pesticides which reach aquatic systems kill fishes, water bugs, snails, and aquatic plants, which are all part of a complex food web to maintain eco-balance. Pesticides applied in the fields also reach the aquatic systems as runoff, causing harm to aquatic flora and fauna. In the traditional systems, plant extract of neem, poison nut, castor oil, tobacco, datura, calotrophes, nuclear polyhedral virus (NPV), bacterial cultures, and natural predators were used as pest control with minimum side effects. Farm machinery. Mechanization of agriculture helps in increasing production by completing various farm operations like metering, drying, etc. and other post-harvesting tasks quickly. Approximately rupees 39,000 crores are spent annually on farm machinery, but heavy machines like tractors and combined harvesters cause panic, which reduces infiltration and drastically destroys soil flora and fauna. Farming for the future. In the present situation, the further expansion of agriculture dependent on inorganic fertilizers, pesticides, and machinery spells further environmental disaster. Agricultural practices like tillage, drainage, irrigation, fertilizer, and pesticide application have made an adverse impact on the environment. Agriculture is an artificial system which aims to maintain the environment in a more productive state by the control of soil fertility, vegetation and pests and watershed management. Indiscriminate agricultural practices that damage the environment undermine the basis of agriculture itself. Hence, it is necessary to adopt agricultural systems and practices which are not only productive but also culturally sensitive, socially just, and economically viable. They should embrace the concept of co-evolution and lead to an innate state of natural stability. There is a simultaneous need for ecological security and increased agricultural production. A series of food secure, sustainable systems need to be designed and implemented. Ethnoscience, traditional knowledge. There has been a great interest in recent times in studying traditional methods of agriculture. These studies have become extremely important in the light of the worldwide efforts to seek alternatives to modern agriculture and evolve sustainable, eco-friendly strategies for development. The indigenous systems are more sustainable because they have stood the test of time. The traditional methods were developed from the practical experiences of the farmer, and this indigenous knowledge was handed over to successive generations verbally. Unfortunately, very little of this ecologically sound technology is documented. Agrobiodiversity. Traditional systems maintain a rich agrobiodiversity and practiced polyculture in contrast to monoculture, which is apparently high yielding but causes genetic erosion, loss of soil fertility, and has low natural pest control. Farmers have always exchanged seeds, and this has maintained biodiversity and food security. The seeds exchanged were selected after studying their actual growth on the fields and also based on their cultural, religious, gastronomic, drought, disease, and pest resistance characteristics. Seed and gene banks are also maintained where numerous varieties of seeds are preserved for the future and are made available to farmers. Agriculture can play an important role in reversing them. For example, by storing carbon in soils, enhancing the infiltration of water, and preserving rural landscapes and biodiversity. They are also the major anthropogenic source of the greenhouse gases methane and nitrous oxide and contribute on a massive scale to other types of air and water pollution. Many of the measures needed to reduce or adapt to climate change are valuable in coping with existing problems such as water and air pollution, soil erosion, and vulnerability to droughts or floods. Measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Development of rice varieties emitting less methane. Improvement of fertilizer use efficiency. Improved management of livestock waste. Improvement of crop residue management. Restoration of degraded lands. Expansion of agroforestry and reforestation, removal of subsidies, and introduction of environmental taxes on chemical fertilizers and energy inputs. Measures to promote adaptation to climate change, development and distribution of crop varieties and livestock breeds resistant to drought, storms, and floods, higher temperatures, and saline conditions. Improvement of water use efficiency through no-till or conservation agriculture in rain-fed areas. Appropriate water management and technology in irrigated areas. Crop production have a profound effect on the wider environment. If more sustainable production methods are used, the negative impacts of agriculture on the environment can be attenuated. Please write your suggestions and feedback to our official email ID cpreec@gmail.com. Kindly subscribe us on YouTube CPREEC Chennai to get notification. To join the next meeting, link will be shared shortly to your email ID and WhatsApp. The session is open now. Participants, you can unmute yourselves and discuss with us. Dear participants, for the remaining minutes, the session is open. You can unmute yourselves and talk to us.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Subhashini.
Yes, madam.
Very nice and very informative. Every time the session is very nice, sir. This time also it was very nice. Can you please elaborate on the storage of carbon in the soil by agriculture, sir? And I have one more question also about taxing on fertilizers. Can you please elaborate on these two items?
You can send it as a mail to us so that we can reply to it. Yeah. Please send us an email to cprec@gmail.com.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, we shall reply to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for it.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam.
What about the GM crops, sir? Wanted to know more about that.
Oh, GM crop. That's also, madam. Please send us an email so that it is an elaborate answer. We will send it to you by reply.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.